Hello, this is Spartan Commander, and this is the 341st Rome Total War Brotherhood game that I've put onto YouTube. Straight away you'll see this battle was fought on the Flatlands map. Our first teammate is RTW player Il Paglia. A lot of you will know Il Paglia. He's a newer player to Rome Total War, but he seems to be a very good player, and he's picked the game up really well. And he's bought the Rome SPQR faction. As you can see there, he's got the bog standard 14 infantry and 6 cavalry. Just have a look at the upgrades on his cavalry. Okay, you can see he's got 6 upgrades, so that's gold shield, gold attack. So that's, as I say, that's the bog standard 31k army, 14 infantry and 6 cavalry. It's a very effective and efficient army. Our next teammate is myself, Spartan Commander, who's bought a very old army. I think I've got 13 infantry and 6 cavalry in this particular army. And our next teammate is Brotherhood member Legion 22. A lot of you know Legion 22, very good player, and he's bought the Greek cities faction. Let's see what he got there. I think he's got 12 spear units there, and I think he's got 7 Cretan archers. So that's a lot of archers to bring to the battlefield. And unusually here for a Greek as a general, he's got a general armored bodyguard, fast moving unit. I'm sure he'll use that to harass and harangue the enemy there, hitting soft targets like the enemy archers and things like that. With that fast moving unit, you can do that quite well. I noticed that he's got an armoured hoplite unit there, and I'm sure that he'll use that for his pilot shield unit. He's only got 1 upgrade on, but as long as that unit stands its ground, it'll soak up pilots as good as any other expensive unit there. But as I say, bringing 8 Cretan archers. There you can see he's got the gold shield, gold attack on each one of his Spartan units there. Let's say you've got 8 Cretan archers, so it'll be interesting to see how well they do during the course of the battle. Let's say this is an unusual battle for me to put on because it's only a 3v3, but it's got the potential to be a great battle, and I hope you enjoy it. And here is the other team. We have Brotherhood member Icarus, who has bought the Rome Scipii faction. Just have a quick look at his army there. I see he's got 12 infantry, and I think he's got 3 archer units there. If I see, yeah, he's got 12 infantry and 3 archers. So have a look at the upgrades. As you can see there, I think he's got some mixed upgrades there. He's got some units with gold shield, gold attack on, just 6 upgrades, and he's got some units with 7 upgrades, which is an experience stripe, gold shield, gold attack. So interesting there of a mixture of upgrades. And if you notice his archers, you can see he's got 6 upgrades on his archers. So that is gold shield, gold attack. So that's some serious upgrades on his archers there. And his cavalry has got 7 upgrades. So that's an experience stripe, gold shield, gold attack. So I think that's a really well balanced army there with archers, infantry and cavalry. Should be interesting to see how well that army does during the course of the battle. Their next teammate is Brotherhood member Lando. A lot of veterans know him as Brotherhood member Turbo, but he calls himself Lando now, and as you can see he's bought the Rome Julii faction. I think he's got 12 infantry there. Yeah, he's got 12 infantry, and I see he's got 4 archers. Now look at the upgrades on his archers. Right, can you see he's got 7 upgrades, so he's got an experience stripe, gold shield, gold attack on those archers, which make those elite archers even more elite with those type of upgrades on. So those are some serious archers there. Let's have a look at the upgrades on his cavalry. Okay, can you see he's got 8 upgrades on his cavalry, so that's 2 experience stripes, gold shield, gold attack. Now we know that Praetorian cavalry are elite in their own right anyway, but you put 8 upgrades on them, and that kind of makes them super cavalry. So I think that's a really interesting army that he's bought there. Their third teammate is Brotherhood member Cody Ray 611, who has bought the Rome Brutii faction. And I think he's got, if I can see there, he's got 14 infantry. Yeah, we've got 14 infantry and 6 cavalry. He's got the bog standard 31k army, and if you notice the upgrades on his cavalry, 7 upgrades, and that's an experience stripe, gold shield, gold attack. So that's another well balanced army, I think, there. So looking at the opposition here, this could be a great battle, and it's got the potential to be a really interesting and intense battle, and I really hope you enjoy it. At this stage of the battle, I thought we'd have a look at this old army of mine here. If you notice that I've got an Eagle unit and a General Urban Cohort unit there as well, so I've got a lot of morale there for my infantry. Let's say this is one of my older armies. It's got 13 infantry, which is 1 unit more than what my other old army brings. But remember that when you bring the Eagle unit and your General unit, always remember to keep those protected during the course of the battle. Only throw them in as a last resort, because they are giving good morale bonus to all the troops, all the allied troops around them. So be careful with how you use them. So it'd be interesting to see how this old army of mine does. Okay, at this very, very early stage of the battle, Turbo has always been an aggressive attacking player. And as you can see here, he's laying his credentials out right from the beginning of the battle here, attacking our right flank, trying to turn our right flank here, putting a lot of pressure on our teammate Il Paglia. As you can see, he's moving those infantry, and he's moving those archers around as well. What he would ideally like to do is to get into a position where he can shoot into our troops from the flank there with his archers, doing the most damage. You'll see Paglia's turning here, and if you notice here, both the enemy green and red here are trying to put a bit of pressure on Paglia here on our right flank. But as I say, Turbo's always been an aggressive player for all the years he's been playing Rome Total War. And as you can see here, this battle looks like it's going to be no exception in the way he's going to attack. Let's say you can see the enemy Brutii troops moving forward. Now whether those Brutii troops try to get an angle on our Greek cities ally there, because I see Legion's flank is looking a bit exposed there. His Greek city unit's looking a bit exposed with that Brutii infantry moving around the right there. Let's say you can see Paglia's move back here against the attack by the Julii enemy. Right, let's pause again for a second. So as you can see here, our right flank has been turned a little bit there as Paglia's moved back to get ready for the attack from both the enemy Brutii and enemy Julii team there. Remember, when your ally goes Greek cities, it puts your team at a cavalry disadvantage straight away, so you have to be very careful with how you use your cavalry. You can see it here over on the left flank, the enemy Scipii troops are moving towards our Greek city ally as well there. But I would say that Legion's probably picking his targets quite well with those 8 Cretan archers. My guess is here he's probably looking to target enemy cavalry. I can see there's some casualties in the enemy cavalry ranks there, where he's been starting to target the enemy cavalry there. But as I say, remember, when your teammates go Greek cities, it does put your team at a cavalry disadvantage here. And I think from what I can see there, the enemy have got something like 16, 17 cavalry against our, I think, 11. So as you can see, they've got a big cavalry advantage straight from the beginning of this battle. Okay, you can see Turbo once again with his Julii army moving forward towards Paglia's SBQ army there. As I say, Turbo very aggressive here. And he'll have those archers. See the Greek cities allies flank there is being exposed a little bit to the archer fire from Turbo's well upgraded archers there. So he'll probably be targeting the flank of our Greek cities ally. Right, you can see the enemy Brutii cavalry. Just pause again for a second. You can see the red enemy general there moving around with green cavalry support. As I say, the Cretan archers now are probably going to target the enemy cavalry. Now remember, keep your cavalry out of archer range, because this is what can happen. You can see this unit hasn't been in combat yet, but as a 54-man cavalry unit was started to be hit here by archer fire, and as it's moved, it's been hit more and more by archer fire, and that unit now from 54 has been reduced to just 16, and that hasn't even been in combat yet. So that is what archer fire can do to cavalry. So it's a good tip for newer players to Rome Total War: keep your cavalry out of range of enemy archers, especially really long range enemy archers that are massed like that. I mean, that whole unit could easily be taken out now, and then that would be a whole cavalry unit lost before they've even gone into combat. Just pure archer fire there. I noticed that Legion's moving those archers back a little bit. He may well be repositioning them. He may well have seen another target that he'd like to hit with those archers. But as you can see here, Legion being attacked by the enemy Brutii infantry there. Let's say Paglia over here on our right flank is being strongly attacked there by the enemy Julii troops there, backed up by green cavalry and some blue enemy cavalry as well. So there's a lot going on this right flank at the moment. As you can see here, you can see the enemy Brutii army moving across here to the right flank as well. So Paglia is under a lot of pressure here from both the Brutii and enemy Julii armies there on our right flank. We see Legion's moving some of his Greek city units over to support Paglia on the right here. So you can see that those Brutii cavalry are locked and loaded, ready to go in. You can see the hammers pulled back on the rifle there, and he's just ready to pull the trigger just at the right moment there with that cavalry. Let's just pause the game for a second. Right now, as you know, because we've got Greek cities and ally and we're at a cavalry disadvantage, you notice how we've got our cavalry at the back here, quite close to each other. Right, you'll see that my cavalry, if you look carefully, can you see that they're hiding? So I've got them hiding in the long grass, and this could confuse the enemy because I could be anywhere in those dark, see the dark patches, that's long grass, so my cavalry is hidden. So they might have forgotten where my cavalry are there. But we've both got our cavalry at the back here, so we can strike on either flank if we're heavily attacked by cavalry. So that's a good position to have your cavalry there, so you can strike on either flank. As you can see here, Legion with his Greek cities is doing what he can there in the centre, holding up the enemy Brutii and some of the enemy Scipii over on the other flank there. But as I say here, as you know, as we said on several occasions, we are at a cavalry disadvantage, and it'll be interesting to see how well we can do. Right, you can see here that Legion's archers are targeting the enemy archers here. They've just started to shoot at those enemy archers there. Now remember, these enemy archers are shooting fire arrows, probably into the rear. Yeah, my guess is they're probably looking at fire into the rear of our Greek cities ally there, causing casualties. And also, remember, with fire arrows, that spreads fear, which lowers the morale of troops as well. If you just shoot ordinary arrows, and that causes more casualties, but fire arrows cause some casualties and spread fear. Right, as you can see here, Turbo moving his red Julii troops round the flank of Paglia even more. So if you notice here, Paglia is pulling right back there now. He's pulled back quite a long way now, and Legion's noticed that because Legion's flanks would have been a bit exposed there. So if you notice that Legion's moved the bulk of his Greek city units back there. But as you can see, he's got a couple of units that are engaged. He didn't want to up spears and move them back because he knows he'd suffer a lot of casualties, so he's left them there fighting. As you can see here, the enemy archers still doing a lot of damage to our troops, firing all the time into us. As you can see here, the enemy Scipii troops now are moving forward towards my army in an aggressive way, probably looking to attack my army there. But as I say, the enemy archers are being used quite skillfully here in where they're targeting our army. As you can see here, we're quite defensive, quite passive at the moment, really, allowing the enemy to dictate what's actually happening here. Where you can see a lot of pilot exchanges between my army and the enemy Scipii army here. But as I say, our team is being quite passive and defensive at the moment, and as I say here, you can see that it's that passes the initiative over to the enemy. Right, you can see our Greek city ally here is got a couple of units quite exposed at the front of his main formation, and that those couple of units has now been surrounded by the enemy, so they're being attacked from all sides. Over here on the right, you can see that Turbo has now closed with Paglia and is actually engaged in hand-to-hand fighting. As you see, the enemy cavalry advantage is starting to show here over on the right flank. Paglia's got his cavalry ready to charge in, and mine's there to be used when needed. You can see that some of the cavalry units are being used in a strategic way here, kind of surgical hits, go in, bang, pull back, do the damage they want. Right, if you notice here, can you see Legion's spotted some danger here over on the right flank, and he's brought a couple of his Greek city units over to help. Now remember, when the enemy sees Greek city units in with our infantry, that's going to have to make them very selective in how they use their cavalry, because obviously they don't want to get their cavalry involved with Greek city pikes. Right, you can see here the enemy green Brutii are moving forward towards Paglia as well. So there's a lot of pressure on our right flank here with the Brutii cavalry and Julii infantry and Brutii infantry as well. As I said, you can see that Legion's moved a couple of his Spartan units over there. So let's just pause the game for a second. So as you can see, Paglia has lost a lot of his units there. But as I say, he's under a lot of pressure on this right flank with all the enemy cavalry and all that infantry over there. As you can see, as I said, Legion's brought a couple of his spear units over, including a general unit, so give morale. Meanwhile, behind us, you can see that 3 of Icarus's cavalry units has been chasing down Legion's light cavalry unit there. And over on our left flank, you can see that we haven't actually got into combat yet, just pilot exchange in there over on the left flank. If you notice, I've moved a couple of my infantry units over to help Legion here in our centre, trying to hold our centre there, as he's spreading his Spartan units over to the right flank as well to help Paglia over on the right flank. So you can see there's a lot going on here, but as I say, right from the beginning of this battle, we have been defensive and passive, and of course, if you do that, you then pass the initiative on to the enemy to let them do what they want. But as I say, when your ally goes Greek cities and you are at a cavalry disadvantage, you have sometimes got to play it in that way. Right, you can see this Brutii cavalry going in and bang as it hits that SBQR unit there. And if you notice, Paglia is retaliating with his cavalry there. But it certainly looks to me like the battle's really going to kick off here on the right flank. Right, we've got enemy cavalry up behind us. That's why I'm hesitant to move my cavalry, because I know the moment I move my cavalry, those cavalry units behind us are going to pick targets to charge into. But you can see here, our right flank is doing quite well. We've repelled and routed a couple of the enemy cavalry units that are attacking there. So Paglia is doing really well at holding. But if you notice, I've decided I'm moving my cavalry over to this right flank here now. Maybe with the thought of if we can take out the enemy on this right flank, then we can turn our cavalry to the other flank there. But I know that as soon as I move my cavalry, the enemy cavalry that was behind us are going to pick targets to charge into. As you can see here, Legion's trying to hold our centre with his Spartan units there. And meanwhile, over on our left flank here, if you notice, can you see that I've been aggressive here and I've started to attack the enemy? You can see my pilot shield unit still stood intact as I move infantry from behind the pilot shield units into the attack. But as I've moved my cavalry away, just as I thought, can you see the enemy cavalry looking to target the rear of my engaged infantry? He's looking to charge into the rear of my infantry. I think he guessed I'd have to take my cavalry over to the right flank to help my allies, and so he's got those 3 cavalry units to smash into the rear of my engaged infantry. As I say, if you notice, I've decided to be aggressive and attacking with my army here on the left flank, trying to draw enemy units away from the battle on the right flank where we're under so much pressure. Okay, so just pause the game for a second. As I said, I thought that these cavalry units would charge into the back of my engaged troops here, which is what they're doing. As I said, I decided on this left flank to become aggressive and attack, and as I say, trying to hopefully draw some enemy units away from the other flank to try and attack me, to counter my attack. Let's say Legion's doing well here to hold in the centre against the enemy Brutii infantry. But over on our right flank here, you can see I'm charging my cavalry in to try and help Paglia on our right flank here. But by doing that, I may well have exposed my infantry to a rear attack from cavalry. Right, can you see my cavalry going in there? And bang! As my cavalry goes in there, straight into that enemy Julii infantry and cavalry. If you notice that the enemy cavalry are retaliating, and bang, as that cavalry goes in. Nice counter-attack there. So this right flank of ours could prove pivotal. Paglia's general's just bof routed, so all of the troops that he's got left's morale will now drop. And meanwhile, over on our left flank, as we thought, that Scipii cavalry, those 3 units of Scipii cavalry are smashed into the rear of my engaged troops. Remember that most of those engaged troops of mine have got an experience stripe on, so I'm hoping that's going to keep them fighting longer and not routing. I reckon if those troops were just gold, they may well have routed there with that cavalry hit going in behind them. So over on our left flank, as I say, I'm trying to be very aggressive there. But on our left flank, and over here on our right flank here, you can see I've pulled my cavalry back, pulled the trigger back on the rifle, ready to charge back in. But am I going to charge back in? Because you can see now that our allies' infantry have basically been routed on our right flank. The enemy have routed most of the infantry on our right flank and may start to look to roll us up from right to left. I'm not going to charge my cavalry into those infantry there, into those Julii infantry. I'm not going to do that because that's what the enemy general would want. Right, so let's pause the game for a second. So as you can see, apart from a couple of units, battle damage units that Paglia's got left, our right flank, after a ferocious fight, has now been broken. and the enemy will now look to roll us up from right to left here. As I say, Paglia's got a couple of very battle damaged units left, but for all intents and purposes our right flank has been routed. Right, can you notice here that our left flank, we're still fighting here, still being aggressive towards the enemy Scipio troops. And if you notice that Legion's starting to move over what he's got left of his Greek city units over to this left flank as well. Seeing that our right flank is broken, we're going to try and make maybe a last stand here on the left flank. So this is where I think Legion decided he's going to put his last of his Greek city units over here on the left, where we will try and make our last stand. As you can see, the enemy will look to roll us up from right to left here. A victorious enemy there. After a ferocious fight, have finally broken our right flank, and they're moving towards our left flank from right to left. Right, I see that there's, as I say, the last of Paglia's units have just been routed there on our right flank. And as you can see, the enemy team are looking to move over to our left flank now to start rolling us up. As I say, Legion has moved his Greek city units, what he's got left, over to our left flank there. He's left a couple of units, including his general unit, I noticed there, over there fighting still. But for all intents and purposes, he's moved most of his units over to our left flank there. Let's say his general units there, let's say a little bit isolated, a little bit exposed over there against the enemy troops. But as I say, the bulk of what he's got left, he's moved over to our left flank here. Right, if you notice, I'm charging my cavalry now, looking to take out as many of those enemy Scipio troops as I can. And as those cavalry units go in, and bang, as those cavalry units hit. Now what I think I'm going to do here, I'm going to smash into that enemy infantry, and I'm not going to pull back, I'm going to push on through the enemy infantry. Now if I push on through, I now will be behind the engaged enemy troops. Now can you see the Scipio general? Can you see the blue Scipio general there? You can see some Scipio cavalry charging in into the rear of my engaged troops, but I'm going to look to take that Scipio infantry general out there by charging into the rear, and bang, as my cavalry go in. Really trying to take out that Scipio general, because as we said before, we know that if I can kill that Scipio general, the morale of all his troops, there you go, managed to take him out now, so the morale of all his troops will drop.
It is time to press the attack.
But you can see the enemy, remember the enemy are the red, the green and the blue. So the red, the green and the blue are the enemy, we are the purple and Greek cities here. Right, can you see the enemy red Julii team charging in behind my engaged troops there? Cavalry as well, and bang, as that cavalry goes in. Right, straight away you'll see several of my units starting to rout there with that massive cavalry. See how penetrating that cavalry hit was, straight into the middle of my formation there. Right, I'm counter-attacking with the cavalry that I've got left, but I lost a lot of units with that hit there from the Julii general. Nice aggressive attack in there. So remember, as I say, we are the Greek cities and purple, the enemy are the green, the blue, the green, the blue and the red. Okay, so the green, the blue and the red are the enemy, the purple and Greek cities are us. Right, can you see here they're charging into a few battle damaged Greek city units there. The Brutio general is trying to finish those units off. Very aggressive there. Just finish off those last Greek city units. I see Legion has brought his general, his Greek city general, back over to this left flank to give morale bonus to our team there. But as you can see here, I'm losing more units there. More of my units are routing the enemy cavalry charging, and bang, as that cavalry hits, routing even more of my units there. I can see some Brutio cavalry charging in as well. Bang, as that cavalry hits straight into the rear of our Greek cities allies. Right, can you see here, I'm fighting, my cavalry is fighting the Julii cavalry here. And this could prove pivotal. If my cavalry can beat that Julii cavalry, can you see I've got infantry in there as well? And if you notice, I'm alt-attacking with my cavalry using the heavy swords instead of the light spears there. So hopefully I'm looking to take out that Julii cavalry if I can. Right, let's just pause the game for a second. So do you remember we saw some of the last Greek city units over there were just been taken out by the Brutii infantry. Now remember, those missiles, those well upgraded Julii archers are shooting arrows into us all the time, making casualties, giving us casualties all the time there. But as I say, here you can see, as I say, my cavalry is trying to take out that Julii cavalry. and our Greek city ally is moving his units over there. But every single unit left on the battlefield here, both enemy and ally, is extremely battle damaged at this time. You can see just killed the Julio general, which is good for us, lowering the morale of all the Julio troops. Can you see there's some enemy Scipio troops in behind us, charging into the rear of us as well. But we've managed to rout a lot of those Julio infantry there, as well as that general. So this battle really is going down to the wire here. It's going to go either way. And as I say, remember, those really well upgraded archers are shooting into us all the time, causing massive casualties to us. I think that's our allies' Greek city general has just been taken out. So obviously the morale of all the Greek city units will now drop. Remember, the enemy are the red, the green and the blue. See the fire arrows being shot into our units there. Another one of my SPQR units has just been routed. Right, if you notice, I've taken my SPQR units here around the flank of the enemy. If you notice, they were engaging my Greek city's allies head on there, so I've taken infantry around the flank to charge into the flank and rear of those engaged enemy troops. But see the volume of fire arrows coming into my infantry there. Not only causing casualties, but actually lowering the morale of my troops as well, spreading fear with those fire arrows. Right, another one of our Greek city allies has just been routed. Right, let's just pause the game for a second. So that's another one of Legion's units has just been routed there, and I think he just got a couple of really battle damaged units left. All my units are extremely battle damaged as well, but I've still got my general alive, still giving morale bonus to my allies and my own troops. Right, see the volume of fire arrows being shot into us here. Now remember, those fire arrows cause casualties, but also they spread fear, lowering the morale of troops and making them more susceptible to routing. And with those archers masked, you see them, he's got them in close formation, so he's going to get more impact with those arrows. So as you can see, this battle's going right down to the wire here, but with those fire arrows hitting us, could that make the difference? Could that be the decisive part of the battle there? Another one of the Greek city allies units has just been routed. As you can see, I've got units returning to the fray that have rallied. They were routed, but they've rallied now and they've come back to the fray. Right, that's another one of the enemy Julii units has just been routed there. As you can see, this battle is going right down to the wire here. You see in Unit C now, Turbo has alt-attacked with those archers. He's charging those archer units in as well. If you notice, my Eagle unit has just rallied. I'm charging that back in as well. But see the volume of those fire arrows still coming in on us now, lowering the morale and causing casualties to us. Okay, the enemy Brutii general now has been routed. You can see that it's routing as well there. And we've just actually killed him there. So it looks like our team has managed to, after a fierce close battle, it looks like we've managed to go on and win the battle. But remember, this is only a 3v3 battle, but look at the dead from one flank to the other. If you look at the piles of dead, you can see how intense the fighting was here from one flank to the other. And remember, the aggressive enemy attack started here on the right flank. You can see the piles of enemy and allied dead there. As we move across the battlefield, you can see the piles of enemy dead there, and allied dead, all the dead there of that was fighting in the battle there. As you can see, moving across, so many casualties there. And as I say, it looks more like a 4v4 than a 3v3 here, looking at the dead on the battleground. Let's say extremely intense fighting. You can see the piles of dead where the fighting was most intense. And as you can see, the enemy is still shooting fire arrows into us now, but I think we have managed to win this, and I see the enemy has admitted defeat now. If you notice here, I've got 5 units left in my general unit, 5 men left in my my general unit. Okay, so we knew it would be a close victory there, and I'd like to say really well played to everybody in the game there. I thought it was a really great, down to the wire, close victory there. Just like to draw your attention to Brotherhood member Turbo, 1,882 kills. Got the highest kills in a game by far, but very unusual to be on a losing team getting that many kills. So that's, I thought that was quite interesting for people to see there. And really well done to Legion with his Greek cities too. He got some good kills as well. But well done to Turbo there, some nice kills there. And that goes to show how aggressive. Did you notice he was being so aggressive on that right flank? Remember, RTW rewards aggressive players. Attacking aggressive players tend to get really good kills. And as you can see, that's what he's got there. So really well done to Brotherhood members Cody Ray 611, Lando and Icarus. Well done, lads. Nice attack there. Well played. And well done to Legion and Paglia. Great game. So Spartan Commander saying bye for now.